out right now, obviously.
Official count should be done. Oh gosh. Give me more. I want more. Yes, it's more. Hold on, let me grab one. Thank you. I got one. Thanks. Wasn't me. Let's go. Yeah, that's fine. Hey, once you're done, pass it toward the door.
All right, our first topic is going to be time management for all sports in your department, and it's going to be led by Jason Sanders at Akron and Absent Harvey at ECU. You guys want to go
That was today. We're not live streaming this, are we?
Hey, everybody, make sure that you put your name on the top of the ballot. Ballots are not valid unless your name is on it. And that goes for Savvy, that goes for Video Coordinator of the Year, all of that. So from here on out, if your name is not on the sheet, your vote is not valid.
You
guys have your ballots?
What up, everybody? So glad you're here. We'll start with introductions. Jason Sanders, University of Akron.
Addison Harvey, East Carolina. All right, I'm actually the assistant at East Carolina to Will Davis. Fortunate to work with a great person, which helps me out a lot. Aside from running football with Will, I also manage our baseball stream and do video production work and scoreboard content for men's and women's basketball. Basically, the way our department's set up is we run everything in-house for all sports. So it's me, we have an assistant AD for video services, Greg Pierce. We have a media specialist and an assistant director, myself, and Will. And Will handles all football, and I assist him, and then I get tied into some other stuff because I'm the young guy on the staff.
Okay. Basically, technically right now I'm still football only, but in an effort to try to prove my worth to the administration in every game, I've really branched out and tried to work with each department and make myself available to anyone and everyone that needs video or technology services. And I don't know, I kind of came up in this being taught that, you know, if you're football only, your focus needs to be football. And if volleyball calls, that's an annoyance or that's a nuisance. And if soccer calls, same thing. And my time at Akron, primarily because the way we're set up facility-wise, there's so many sports just in our field house. We have, in our field house alone, football is there, men's and women's soccer, baseball, softball, track and field, and men's and women's golf. So of our 18 sports, we have that many just in our field house. So I'm around all the coaches all the time. Our staff locker room is shared with all the coaches. So I saw that as an opportunity to branch out and kind of make myself more valuable And so in terms of time management, what gets brought up a lot is if you're football only, how am I making sure football is covered and still being able to branch out to the other sports? And the one thing that I found, and it may be kind of taboo to think about right now, is I trust my GAs and student assistants to do the job. I spend time with them in the off season. I teach them everything that needs to be done, and I let them roll with it. And there's a fear, I guess an innate fear that I had starting off that was, wow, Jason's not doing his job. When in fact, I counter that with, I am doing my job because I have student assistants and I have graduate assistants and I'm teaching how to do the job, and I'm making them better professionals. They're not just someone that's expected to show up every day, grab a camera, go out to practice and shoot practice. They're learning why they're doing it. They're learning the value of the all 22 and why you have to keep all 22 people in the shot. They're learning how to frame an end zone and why that's important and why not to miss a play. I know a discussion was brought up recently regarding, who should shoot sidelines. Should it be the full-time guy, should a student or whatever? I don't touch my coach's video during games. That was something that started last year. I had a senior student was my actual in-game editor. I had a graduate assistant run sideline camera, and I had 2 students on my end zone camera. I was on the field shooting highlights for post-production, and I had another graduate assistant on the other side. And literally, the game was over, I'd go in the locker room and I would shoot the head coach and the players celebrating our 3 or 4 victories, whatever it was. And then, we would take that footage into the office and I would pass it off, and someone would start putting together a quick highlight reel for that, and my students were in there ingesting and cutting up the game. And when the game was over, it took me 5 minutes to sit down and go over and make sure that everything was ODK'd correctly and marked correctly. And then I would upload and post. And, it was really awesome to see not only my students learning how to do this and how to do it right, but to take pride in what they were doing and to have the same kind of pride that I show in my job. You could see that in them because they were, it was almost the mindset, I don't want to let Jason down. I want to make sure I do it right so that he's not disappointed at the end of the game. And we have literally, and this is honest to goodness, the very first game of the year, my senior student who's editing, I had him on a radio and he was patched into me the whole time, and I'm shooting highlights and I'm talking to him, and he's got questions, and by halftime of the first game, he had everything down pat, and we didn't have a problem the rest of the year. And so that was really awesome. And so to be able to teach my students and trust my students and GAs to do that has enabled me to take the time to go and make sure volleyball has everything they need. And men's soccer, who was taking a mini DV camera and recording an entire soccer game and then coming in and trying to put that on DVD and take the DVD and make the DVD a digital file and then upload it to whoever they're uploading it to for breakdown. I was able to spend time with them and streamline their process so that now they're getting out early. And the benefit of that is our men's soccer coach goes to my athletic director and says, hey, Jason's saving us 2 hours now after a game. We're getting out in 45 minutes with the things that he's taught us. What can we do? So my big thing is, saving time and trust the people that work for you. You don't have to feel like you have to take every burden on yourself. Let the people who work for you shoulder some of that.
Yeah, kind of mirroring what Jason just said, our situation, for me personally, I was a undergraduate, little background, undergraduate assistant for 4 years. Then they wanted to keep me around, so I transitioned into being the GA. Was GA for 3, and this is my first year being full-time on staff. So I'm very passionate about working for East Carolina University, very passionate about my job, and do not just want to be, just a football guy, just about football. I don't have time for, other sports, similar to what Jason said. So I took a very open approach to, if baseball needs something, even if it's in the fall, I can handle it, or delegate it to my students. I also manage somewhere between 10 and 14 students for us. And like Jason was saying, it's very important to make sure your students are well trained, know what they're doing, and be able to trust them to help out in your department. And, situation that really got me into helping out with a lot of other sports happened, it's like in July, we hired a new baseball coach, and he came from Ole Miss. He was assistant at Ole Miss. And we know what great work, I've seen Wills here, I haven't seen Chris, but, they do a great job. I think everybody's seen their production work and the production staff they have. So he came to East Carolina with a lot of expectations for video production, which we don't have that many people, and we don't have the equipment and whatnot that they have. But I told him, hey, I'll help out, I'll do what I can. And he wanted weekly motivational videos for baseball, which is something we've never done before. I don't know if anybody else in here does that, but so I took that task on as something wasn't in my job description, but I knew it would mean a lot to him to help him out, help his staff out, help his players out with that. Advice for people here, especially younger people, really work on, if you're going to help out with other sports, prioritize what's important and knock that out first, especially when you're going to be working across sports. You really got to make sure that you get done what needs to get done first and not, overwhelm yourself trying to work on multiple projects at once. I think that's really important. And I'm in charge of kind of coordinating with our students, making sure they're on time, they know what to do, they know what to wear. So communication is key, especially when you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. I'm not much older than they are, but you constantly got to remind them, hey, you need to be here at this time, wearing this, and this is what you're going to do. So I think just communication is a key asset in time management. And another thing, as I'm sure a lot of us were, we all had jobs in college. I think it's very important. Your students play a key role in what we do. And a lot of times, they mess up and you get agitated. That's going to happen. You may say something you regret the next day, but I think it's really important, since especially for us, we have so many students, to make sure they know, hey, you're appreciated for what you do. What you do is very important. I appreciate you, coming in early, staying late, working on holidays. Make sure that they feel appreciated, and it'll help you guys in the long run. Anybody have any questions, or Jason?
The only other thing I wanted to add to that is that if with my students, the one thing, even if they screw up, let's say they get too tight on the sideline shot or something like that, and the coach comes in and complains. My response to that is, coach, if anyone understands an 18 to 22-year-old kid not doing what you tell them to do, it should be you. And I wouldn't tell a coach that, but they actually relate to that. So that's helped me. So is there any
Yeah, this is probably a great transition for strategies for getting students involved more. So if Jason Brooks want to come up here, join Jason.
Okay. All right. So like Kristen was saying, kind of what I'm doing is kind of segues into the next talk, which is getting your students involved. And everyone's got students, and hopefully you can assess them and determine the ones that really want to be there and the ones that don't. And I'm at a point right now where I have my students coming to me and saying, I saw what Sean, my senior last year, who did all my post-game work, I saw what he was doing. And instead of being on your end zone camera, I want to be the guy in the office doing that. And so now I have students that work for me lining up, begging for that opportunity to be the one that ingest practice and ingest the game. And that's not what I want to do after the game. I want to sit there and, enjoy the fact that we won our fourth game of the year. Or whatever, in November. And then Thanksgiving is going to be off. But again, just making sure you're getting your students involved and really entrusting them. I think a lot of the college kids feel intimidated in that work environment because they haven't had a true professional experience. And so the more faith and trust you put in your student, the better they're going to perform for you. Treat them as just the regular kid that shows up, and you have to tell them to do this and do that, and you're not putting any faith in them. They're going to feel not trusted, and I think they're going to kind of start slacking off. But if you put it to them in true terms of, if you're the boss, what do you expect? It's your butt on the line. How do you expect them to perform? They really rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. One of the big things that I've seen is defining a role for your students. A lot of times you'll give them a task every once in 3 months, and they have no idea what they're doing because they only do it once every 3 months. So one thing I'm going to be doing this next fall is defining roles for my student workers, whether it's being an editor, and that's your main job besides shooting practices and games. Whether it's you're working on a highlight package every single week. That way they can get better at it and they can progress and get better just as people and getting better in the profession. A lot of times that I've seen, if they're just there for shooting practices and games, and you try to give them a small task of helping with the ESPN copy or something like that, they're not going to know how to do it because they don't do it that often. And whenever they get better at it, pat them on the back, hey, this is what you started with, this is where you're at now. And they'll feel more entitled to want to do more things instead of, I just go to shooting stadium and shoot some of the practices. And the reason why I try to define roles for them is because now they can go on a resume and say, hey, I'm head editor for Ball State University. I go to all the games and practices, and it makes them feel more influential and more like they have a purpose there instead of what some of the players might say. Oh, there's one of the filmers. No, you can say now, I'm Brooks's right-hand man when it comes to getting the film to the coaches. Because a lot of times you'll see students that just, that, hey, I'm just a filmer. Their role feels a lot more diminished than if you give them a certain role of an editor or something like that. And another thing that I've seen is communicate with your student workers. Giving them a task that they necessarily don't want to do at all is much less beneficial than something that they really want to do. For example, one of my student workers, his name is Jesse, he actually works for a radio station on the side of doing schoolwork and also working for me. Obviously, one thing that completely correlates with that is helping find music for motivational videos or helping with music playlists for practice. And he loves doing that. He gets excited coming to work to do that stuff because it's in line with what his interest is. Giving him something like a tedious task of editing the ESPN copy or something like that, he's gonna want to, he's gonna dread it more than something that he really wants to do. So I think that's where I think for anyone is definitely the most important thing is communication, because if you don't know what your student workers' interests are, they're not going to want to do it not nearly as much as something that they want to do. And the last thing I'll talk about is just with that communication, talk about how it'll help them later on in life. I tell them all the time, I took a job my senior year of college working for basically a show that's called Roundabout You. It has nothing to do with sports, but I know that it gave me the confidence that I can do absolutely anything. If they get that confidence that they can do, anything that someone throws on their plate, it'll help them later on down the road with finding their first job or something like that. So even if it's something small, make it definitely apparent to them that what they do matters and what they do for you matters, because they're definitely going to want to help you out a lot more. So with that, I'll go to the images.
So when I got to JSU, I was an undergrad student in Alabama, and I did women's basketball for 4 years, and then 1 year with Troy Martin Daniel in football. And I loved going to work every day with football. I hated going to work every day with basketball. So I tried to take the superiors for both sports to kind of see what kind of boss I was going to be, what kind of leader I was going to be at JSU, and took the things like always fighting for your students, always making sure they're getting enough. And it doesn't always work, but I'm always looking at what are the student assistants upstairs. They're on the field for gear, little things like gear and like meals, things like that. What are they getting that mine aren't getting? And I definitely had to learn a balance of don't rub people the wrong way, but definitely letting them know that they're important to you, even because video gets forgotten a lot. Make sure I tried to make sure that I never forgot my students, and I never wanted them to think that they were forgotten. I think something else, just like Brooke said, defining the role. Like I had a social media guy, and I went through and saw like he was always on his Facebook, always on his Twitter. And I thought, hey, he's got a strong knowledge of social media. He can help me out. So that's something that I had to do at HDCP. It's not my favorite. It's not the favorite part of my job, but like I got together with him and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Ask things by me before we post it, but let's work together, and it's been fairly successful. That I think definitely one part of the success of my students. I've got 9 students, which have a bunch of volunteers last season. And I think one thing, definitely having a leader, like a head student assistant, because I know a freshman coming in is not going to ask me questions that he definitely would ask, that he would ask the student leader, and that definitely helps with their success. I don't know, just trying to make it a group. We're a team. I always use we whenever we do anything. Hey guys, we really messed up in practice today. We weren't together on things, because that's usually me also not being a part, not communicating with them. Always saying we, not saying you screw up, but we screwed up. And then of course, like I said, fighting for your students. When our team won the conference championship, once playoffs were over, I was in the ear of all the administrators, making sure that my volunteers got rings, just like the managers got rings, and the student assistants got rings, and the walk-on players got rings. And of course, all none of the students ended up getting rings. They half of them didn't get paid, but they got a ring to take away. And of course, I've got 2 or 3 turds that I don't like dealing with. But trying to, not holding them to the standard. In Alabama, I was held to a standard. If I screwed up, I heard about it. So I make sure that they hear about it if they screw up. I had to definitely learn early on not to overdo it. On constantly being critical, even though there's a couple of them that I constantly have to be critical of. It's like, you're doing this really well, but you're still messing this up, like trying to find something good that they're doing. And I think generally my guys like showing up because I only have one that's continually late. And I kind of see that as they're enjoying the time to work. They're thinking about, okay, I've got to work today. I've got to come to practice. And then I have my guys come in an hour early, so if something happens, if somebody sleeps in, or if there's an accident or something, I've got time to plan around for practice. And in that hour, I encourage them to learn a game system and, learn to do something fun, so we're not just sitting there and it's not boring. And then of course for FCS playoffs, constantly I was just spending money on my wallet while everyone's in there watching that film, getting pizza and hot wings and things like that, trying to make it fun, trying to make it an enjoyable experience. Because I remember working for women's basketball in Alabama and hated it because my superiors never acknowledged anything. It was never a fun experience. It was just get there, do the work, and let's go home, because that's what it was for them. And then going to football, I just remember it being, it was a group. And of course, it's easy to enjoy a bigger level like that over an FCS program. But at the same time, I remember the foundation of we were a group when we were cutting up, before practice, hanging out in the office beforehand, and I remember that, so I encourage that. I think the last thing I'll say is if you have a staff dynamic, I'm lucky where I get to have an assistant. He's on full scholarship, and he's my guy. So I try to work the team dynamic where I'm the disciplinary, and he's always the fun. He's the fun one. I'm the one that gets on to him. He never does. If he sees something, he'll let me know. And I'll be honest that he's always the friend first, and partially because he's still undergrad. He's a very mature undergrad, but definitely trying to pay attention to the team dynamic. I really discipline for fun one. Then have a team assistant, like I said. Define the role and just make sure it's an overall enjoyable experience for the students. Because it's a tough job. They could be at a restaurant making way more money, but they've chosen to come work for football and try to feel off the ball.
Is there any questions for us?
Just a comment. Going along with that, I found in our office, I'm my boss is very good, and I found that in our office, having everybody make sure they rotate, not just going to one certain tower for practice. Maybe you shoot a sideline, or you come in and you invest practice with someone who's in there who knows how to do it, help you along. That has really helped make our students more well-rounded. And to continue the fact that the next student, I was taken that position a couple of years ago, and I found out that a lot of our coworkers are more comfortable coming to me with little questions that they would think my boss would be disappointed if they didn't know already, or something like that. You just have someone who's around that age who knows what he's doing, they're comfortable going in and asking that question. You learn how to get things done.
Yeah, and one thing on that, our for instance, like our sideline, I have someone that's done it for about 2 years now. He's totally comfortable up there shooting sidelines. So one thing that I do with someone that's coming in that's new is I have them kind of job shadow with that person on the sideline instead of me being up there. Obviously, you want to train them the right way, but at the same time, you staying over them, in my opinion, isn't necessarily what should be done, because the people that you train initially know exactly what they're doing. It comes a lot better to them. I've found, at least, to them to actually see it from a peer instead of a supervisor. But at the same time, you still want to, hey, this isn't right. I mean, you tell them what they did wrong later on from that. But one thing that helps me is I actually have basically a training tape that they'll watch before they even go out. So they'll see what is a good sideline shot for team, what's not a good sideline shot for team, what's a good end zone shot for Skelly, what's a bad end zone shot for Skelly. So a lot of that stuff is more pre-training. And then the reason why I say I want them to define their roles is so they can get better at a certain area, because there's not a perfect student that knows everything. That's my my belief. Now, after year one, if they fully master how to do something, then that's when you can rotate, and so they can learn how to do ESPN copy, they can learn how to do editing, they can learn how to do that kind of stuff, and then that's when, kind of to your point, with rotation role, then the students can kind of teach themselves, and they're going to get better in a lot more areas. So I've only been there about a little over a year now. When I first started, we started with TV Sport. I transferred from Web, yes, Web. But so it was still a transition for a lot of my students, just getting their feet wet with a lot of stuff. So now is when I can really dive into it, and they can really learn how to do a lot of different things. So, that's what.
I got three of them.
Okay.
One, where do you find things that? Two, how do you interview them? And three, how do you find what roles?
At Ball State, there's this David Letterman is a famous alumni from Ball State. So there's a lot of very good, students that want to help and want to learn. With that is the Sports Link department that's actually nationally recognized. So a lot of them want to do stuff in television, not necessarily for coaches video and stuff. But I have a close relationship with their head instructor of the Sports Link department and his assistant. So a lot of the time I get my student workers from them. I'll shoot them an email or call them and say, hey, do you know of anyone in your classes that's looking for more work? There's also, we have a career center through the university that will post a job posting, asking specific things that we're looking for. For instance, I just hired a girl, her name's Jessica, during the spring practices, and her main role is just photography. So a lot of that, when doing an interview, it's just a sit-down interview for 20, 30 minutes. One of the main questions that I asked is, besides just filming practices and games, what do you think you can bring to the table, and what do you want to do that kind of maximize your time? So one of the student workers that I also hired in the spring, he said he wants to do highlight type stuff, motivational stuff. And so that, to me, that's a telling sign that someone really wants to work in it. They want to learn how to do a lot of different things. And if their response is, they don't really have one, or it's something not up to your standard, to me, that's a telling sign that they truly don't want to learn. It's more telling that way, instead of getting into it and say you're hiring that kind of thing, and then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. I think that answered that.
All right, so I'm lucky because JSU has a big film department. A lot of people that are interested in film and technology that goes behind it. So a couple of my guys are actually getting class credit for working. I worked out with a teacher, and then over the summer I went to different classes and just said, hey, my name is Jason, the video coordinator for football. And I'm looking for people that want to work in sports. And also this next year, I'm going to have 2 sideline highlight shooters on the ground from the University of Alabama, which is 2 hours away. So I graduated from there. I still have connections with professors. So I've shot her an email saying, hey, I'm looking for people working on equipment that want to get into college sports videography, and then one photographer. And of course there it's really hard to get on the sideline for football. It's just your own equipment. At JSU, it's not. There's not a lot of people, and so that's what I'm offering. Hey, it's college football. If you're on the sideline, you're going to get the going to get the same experience. And so that right there frees up 2 spots on Vanguard for the rest of us. And then I think also I sat down with the coach. I was lucky in this regard also because our head coach was from the area, so he knew a lot of people in his church that were asking him, hey, can I help out? And it was a lot of people that knew in general. And then also when we put an end to seeing if there was anyone you like asking asking to work, like hey, if you work, you don't have the uniforms and send them to me. I got one kind of ask that way. And then the interview, I try not to make it an interview is more just like a good scenario and try to disguise it like don't be nervous, like come and be yourself, because I don't want someone to come in and interview and be this awesome person and be their actual guy. I have to work with them throughout the season. So just talking to them, hey, what do you want to do? I think what's the outline, just what do you want to do like post college, and I try to like point them since there are different directions you can go in individual offense. Talking about like what you've done before, and really being open and honest. Hey, this is not like any other job you can work. This is longer hours, getting less for those hours, but there are a lot of perks to it. And then, of course, when you're honest like that, some people are just like, okay, this isn't for me, and that's good. You'll point that off the bat because you're not going to find that out after you're talking. So just whenever I interview, I'm always completely open and honest. Yes, we do have a scholarship available. No, we don't. But if you work on fight really to get us down there, and then just saying this is a little harder than working in a restaurant. And of course, I did that my first part of college, and so I can definitely say this is what you'll do if you work in a restaurant. This is what you'll do for these benefits. I do before. What was the third one?
I need to find your role.
Right. Okay. And, just what do you do after college, and what are you good at? That really is all in space. It's kind of irritating, but there's a little more happy. It's what they won't know happy. So finding strengths and weaknesses and asking what they may do.
Are we good on time, or do we need to wrap? Do we need to wrap?
Yeah, just go ahead and answer Jeff's question.
We're good. Twitter. I find everyone on Twitter and then say, do you want to work for me? And can you work when I need you to work? And they say yes or no, and they're hired.
I do the same thing.
Gentlemen.
One thing we learned in study was you get a great relationship with college time, and you have a job there every year. Waiting on when you set a job there, home there, they check you out.
Yes.
And you get resume for social media, production, kids in this hospital, he said food, he said video rolling, he said football. They don't get two shits about football. They just want to come work for football too. So you just break all the resume and then just shut the room and then put them somewhere. So that's what we're doing for the job here in Memphis. We have 40,000 kids here, we get 100 applications.
The other nice thing about that was that putting that relationship with the department head and department internships there, that we would have access to resume before we even met. Pattern database, you get 1 year, 1 year deeper. I was able to go off the class and seniors just to get them 1 semester out. I can see you those before
They just spread, they just word of mouth. Once you get first year, they see how fun it is to work with you, and they just tell their friends, and they tell their friends, you have to be working there. They sell it stuff.
One note of caution, I would make sure your school has a good comm department, because we tried that this year and we hired 3 kids and I had to fire 2 of them before the game was over. So just make sure you got a good comm department before you go and do that.
Does anybody else have any new business that they is pressing to talk about right now? No? Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and announce Errol as the new, executive board secretary, so congratulations.
We'll jump right in, because you have a meeting at 1 o'clock on Monday. So it'll be 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, so free your lunch up.
For sure. He will officially take office, tomorrow night at the awards banquet. And then if you guys see Jake, be sure to thank him for all his hard work over the years. He's done a really, really good job today. So, thank you. All right, so that's all we're gonna have for general session 2 today. We'll go ahead and sign your cards and see you back tomorrow at 11.
Also, wanted to congratulate Darby on moving on as our vice president.
It's really easy to
Acclamation.
write down post.